Today I'm going to share with you how to make $5 million a day as a solo player in GTA Online. Before we get into it though, I just want to say in order to do this money grind, you'll need a handful of businesses. So if you're a new player to the game or don't have the money to buy them, I'll leave a link to my guide on how to go from $0 to $10 million as a beginner player in GTA Online. But with that out of the way, the first step in this money grind is to set up our passive income business, which is the Acid Lab. Now, in order to get the Acid Lab, you'll first have to complete the 6 First Dose mission storyline, and you'll also need to get the equipment upgrade for the Acid Lab, which will require you to do 10 Fooligan missions. Once you have the Acid Lab and the equipment upgrade, you could then purchase supplies from Mutt for $60,000. While we're doing other things in the money grind, these supplies will turn into product which we could later sell for a profit, which is why the Acid Lab is our passive income business. So to start off the money grind, buy supplies for $60,000 and then make sure to use your production speed boost as well. But now that the Acid Lab is set up, it's time to get into the main part of the money grind. So the first thing we're going to do is a Cayo Perico heist. Now, in order to do it, you'll have to have a Cayo submarine, and the way the heist works is you sneak onto a private island, take secondary loot from around the island, as well as a primary target in a compound, and if you could escape the island successfully, you can make anywhere between $800,000 all the way up to $1.6 million in profit. As a solo player, the heist will take anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes, depending on which vehicles you have to do these setup missions with. But once you've done the heist a couple times and have gotten used to it, you can easily complete it in 50 minutes to an hour. Now, I'm not going to go through an entire heist guide in this video. If you want to see a complete guide, I will leave mine linked in the description down below, but I do want to share with you the fastest way to do the finale. So the approach vehicle to use is the long fin, the infiltration point is the main dock, the compound entry point will be the drainage tunnel. The escape point and time of day doesn't matter, so you could choose whichever one you want. And finally, for the weapons loadout, I always use aggressor and put suppressors on my weapons. With this setup, you'll start the finale with the long fin at the main dock. You could then go straight to the airstrip, take all the secondary loot from the 2 loot locations there, which should completely fill up your loot bag, and then head over to the drainage tunnel where you can make your way through the compound, get the primary target, and escape by jumping off the island and swimming away. Using this method will guarantee the elite challenge every single time, so at minimum you should be making $900,000 to $1 million profit per Cayo Perico heist. Now, because the heist has a 2.5 hour cooldown if you're doing it as a solo player, you can't do it back to back on this account, but what you can do is do a Cayo Perico heist on your secondary character, and that's what we're going to do. So in order to access your secondary character, you have to go to the pause menu, head over to online, down to manage characters, and then once you enter the character selection screen, toggle over to your secondary character and select them. Now, in order to do the heist on your secondary character, you're going to have another Cayo submarine on that character, but buying the submarine on your secondary character shouldn't be a problem because the 2 characters share a bank account, so all you have to do is make 2.2 million on your main character, and then you could buy it on your secondary character. Anyways, once you've switched to your secondary character, you could then do the Cayo Perico heist again, essentially bypassing the cooldown. Now, if it doesn't allow you to do it right away, all you have to do is exit your Cayo, wait about a minute or so, you'll get the text from Pavel, then you could go back in and start up the heist. Once again, the heist should take about an hour to complete and make you $1 million. And once that's done, you can then switch back to your main character, and on your main character, you're then going to want to start up the Dre Contract. In order to access the Dre Contract, you'll have to have an agency and have completed 1 security contract, but once you've done both, you could then start up the contract. Now, the way the contract works is it's essentially a large heist. You have 3 mini heists and 2 finale missions. It takes about an hour and a half to complete on average. Sometimes you could get it done even quicker, but at the end of it, you're going to make $1.1 million between the leaks and the finale. Once again, if you need some help completing the Dre contract, I will leave a link to my guide in the description down below, but there is one thing that wasn't in that guide that I want to share with you here. It's a shortcut that will save you at least 5 minutes in the finale mission, and the way it works is when you're doing the finale mission, when you reach the hangar at the LSIA airport, go through the first hallway, and then when you get to the second hallway, take out all the enemies that are there. But then instead of working your way through the entire hangar to get the Johnny guns, instead blow up the tanker that's right here on the left. Once it's blown up, you could actually hop up into the tanker, run through, and you'll then be at the back of the hangar where you can run around to where Johnny Guns is, take him down, and then start the cutscene. This shortcut saves a ton of time, so I hope it helps, but now that you've completed the Dre contract, you should be about 3 to 3.5 hours into the money grind and have made at least $3 million. And because you're 3 hours into the money grind, it means all the supplies have been turned into product at your Acid Lab, so go back to your Acid Lab and buy supplies once again for $60,000. Once you've resupplied the Acid Lab, it's now time to get into the 3rd Cayo Perico heist of the money grind, and that is because between the 2nd Cayo Perico heist you did and the Dr. Dre Contract, it should have been about 2.5 hours, which means the cooldown is done, and you could do one more Cayo Perico heist on your main character. Now, if you do this all back to back to back, this Cayo Perico heist should be in hard mode. Now, nothing's actually going to change during the setup missions or the finale. You could do everything the exact same, but the Elite Challenge bonus will go up from $50,000 to $100,000, and all your loot will get a 10% buff. So you should be making, at minimum, $1 million to maybe $1.1 million for this third Cayo Perico heist. Once you've spent about an hour completing the third Cayo Perico heist, it's now time to get into the second last thing of the money grind, and that is completing the new FIB files. These came out with the Garment Factory in the most recent GTA Online update, and luckily for us, we can actually make a decent amount of money with them as a solo player. Now, of course, if you do want to be the most efficient with your time and make the most amount of money possible, instead of doing these FIB files, you could also do auto shop contracts or even the Cluck and Bell farm raid, but I think it's good to try out the new money methods, which is why I'm adding this into the money grind. So in order to access the FIB files, you'll have to buy the Garment Factory, but once you've done that, you could then access all 4 of them. Now, each week, one of the 4 will be designated as a priority file. It will pay out 2 times as much, but can only be done once per week. So for this money grind, you're going to want to focus on the other 3. Now, what the FIB files are essentially mini heists. You have 3 really simple setup missions and 1 finale mission. They're pretty fun to complete, and the non-priority files will pay out about $150,000 at base. They take about 25 to 30 minutes to complete solo, but if you're using an Oppressor Mach 2 or a Sparrow, you might be able to get it even closer to 20 minutes. Now, assuming they take you about 20 to 30 minutes to complete, you should be able to get 2 to 3 done in about an hour. Now, that will at base make you $300,000 to $450,000, but if you make sure to complete all 3 bonus challenges for the finales, you can make an extra $50,000 per FIB file. So in total, you can actually make $400,000 to $600,000 in an hour with these FIB files. So make sure to complete 2 to 3 of these FIB files depending on how long it takes you, and once you've spent about an hour on the files, it's now time to do the final thing in the money grind, which is selling off your Acid Lab stock, because at this point, your Acid Lab should be completely full. Now, at base, a full Acid Lab will sell for just over $300,000, but in order to make the most amount of money with it, make sure to sell it in a public lobby with 20 or more people, so you get the 50% high demand bonus, taking up your total sale to $527,000. Now, selling stock in a public lobby can be daunting, but the Acid Lab only has 1 sell vehicle, and because you could complete it as a CEO, you could then use Ghost Organization, one of the CEO abilities, to take you and the product off the radar for 3 minutes. Usually that's enough time to complete the mission or to at least be halfway through the mission, so selling your Acid Lab for over $500K should be a guarantee. And with that sale of Acid, you should now have made $5 million in about 5.5 hours. You could probably do it a little bit quicker, closer to 5 hours. If you're new or not used to all this stuff, maybe it will take you about 6. But with this money grind at base, you could make $5 million in 1 day as a solo player. So with that, that is the entire grind. But before I end off the video, I want to mention one other passive income business you could run at the same time, but I didn't make necessary because it costs so much money. And that passive income business is the nightclub. Now, the nightclub has 2 ways to make passive income. The first is through the nightclub wall save. If you have maxed out popularity in your nightclub, you will earn $50,000 every in-game day or 48 minutes through the nightclub wall save. Now, because this money grind is about 5.5 hours, that means by the end of the money grind, you could make an additional $250K roughly with the nightclub wall save. The other way to make money with the nightclub is through the nightclub warehouse, and the way it works is you can hire up to 5 technicians and assign them to source you 5 different types of products. If you have all 5 technicians and have assigned them to cargo and shipments, sporting goods, South American imports, pharmaceutical research, and cash creation, they will source you $50,000 worth of product every single hour if you have the equipment upgrade with a nightclub. So similar to the nightclub wall save, throughout this entire money grind, you can make an additional $250K through the nightclub warehouse. But as I said, it is more expensive because in order to have technicians assigned to those 5 goods, you also need to own 5 other businesses in the game. For cargo and shipments, you need to have a CEO cargo crate warehouse or hangar. For sporting goods, you have to have the bunker. For South American imports, you need the Coke lockup. For pharmaceutical research, you need the Crystal Lab. And for cash creation, you need the counterfeit cash factory. So the nightclub is more costly, but if you have everything needed for the nightclub, At the beginning of this money grind, you could also set up the nightclub wall safe and the warehouse while you're setting up your acid lab so that you can make an additional 500k. Anyways, that is how you can make $5 million or more per day as a solo player in GTA Online. I hope this guide helped you out. If it did, please drop a like. If you're new, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.